Hello there, and welcome to this how-to screencast. I'm Rex Proctor. In this screencast, we're going to cover off a couple of features and build a markup view that dims different panels as you go through a data entry sequence. So we're going to do this step by step. This is a how-to screencast, so it's going to be a bit longer. I'm going to go through all the motions on how I would create this type of scenario in the markup. So we're going to take a new button. This is going to be a background. So we're going to make this the background of our first panel. And this is going to be the button that is actually going to change color. So I'll call this panel 1 background. I'm going to copy that. Actually, let me delete that, because what we want to do is we're going to make this a none button, because we never want it to actually dump data into the timeline, and we're going to make it an it doesn't really matter because we're not going to be pushing it down, but we definitely want to make it a none button, and we definitely want to hide the state in case it gets pushed down. Then I will copy that. Now I've got these two panels, so we'll call that panel 2, and I'll copy this and I'll make it a little bit smaller. We'll cover it up there, and I'm going to change the color because this is going to be the background for buttons that are going to sit on top of this. So I'm going to select both of these. We're going to use the handy center alignment tool to get that to go in there. And then we're going to change the name of this to panel 1. Just panel 1 is fine because we're going to hide the name. Well, actually, let's show the name. I'll show you another cool little trick. Let's set the color here to a little bit lighter. And if I hold Control Option, I can then move that up. And then I will go and select those, and we'll align those in the center and get that guy back. And then I'll copy that one because that'll give me all the same properties, and we'll select both of these. Now I'm aligning this by right-clicking on the one that I want to be used as the alignment one. So make sure that you right-click on the right one, and then we center that. So that's cool. Now we'll change the name of this to panel 2. And then we just need to add a couple of buttons on top. And let me just do this. I try to create one button and then we pattern that button. So this one is going to be a clip button. And let's set that up as my clip 1. And the button color doesn't really matter because we're going to end up changing it. However, I'm going to untick same. Now same binds the button color and the mark color together. In this situation, I would prefer not to have the mark color ever change, because if I have to click on it and I'm inside of a sequence and it's not lit up, if I click on it, it will then dump the clip or qualifier attribute with the color that's switched, right? So because we're going to use that change button color action feature. And so we don't want that marking color ever to change. So we'll set this first one up as that. So when I press this clip button, regardless of the button color, remember button color is just the visual. That's what you see in the markup, but that's not the data that it's going to input in the timeline. That will allow us to do that. Now, just for this sakes, I'm going to set a time down of -1. So that will then, when the button is pushed down, it's going to subtract 1 second from the start time of the clip, and then we'll set up a duration of 1, so the button will automatically get pressed up after 1 second. So this will basically create a 2-second clip, and that's just for demonstration purposes. Okay, we're going to copy that one, and we'll call this my clip number 2. And we're going to set that as a different marking color. Let's go with a purple. And we're going to take and go down to our second part of the sequence. And then I'm going to call this my clip number 3. And we'll change the color to green. Copy paste that. Or you can hold Option, click and drag. That's a very Macish thing to do. And we'll make that to be orange, and we'll change that there. Okay, now we have the basic setup. Now what we want to do first is let's go ahead and look at the feature that we're going to use to move from panel 1 to panel 2 is what we call a down center action. So I'm going to set that up, and we're just going to have that center the second panel background, right? Panel 2BG, right? So that's that one. And I'm going to do the same thing with this one. And down center, and that will then go to that one. And then we'll do the reverse, so we'll be going between panel 1 and panel 2. When we hit panel 2, it's going to bring us back up to panel 1. You could keep setting up the panels, go to panel 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so on, depending on what the data sequence entry you want is. So let's go and add that action down center, and we'll go back up to the background of panel 1. And we'll do the same on this one. Go back up to the background panel there. Okay, cool. So now we have our basic thing going on here. So if we check that, you'll see that that will do the centering action, and that will do the centering action, and so forth. So that's all working like we want. Now what I want to do, though, is I want to dim out panel 1. And I want to be able to turn that off and on, basically like a light switch. So what we'll do is we'll grab another couple buttons. Actually, let me get rid of that. And we're going to call this one panel 1 on. And I'm going to, let's copy that. So option, click and drag to copy it, and we'll call this panel 1 off. And then we'll set those there. Now what we're going to do is we want to change the colors of these when we turn it on. So we want those to light up. And what we'll do is we'll add 3 actions, because we want 3 independent colors. So we're going to do a down button color. Now let's make this a none button, and let's set the state up to hide, because we don't really care about seeing the state. And we want it to be an auto up, because basically we want it to be a one click, the state goes down, it turns on, basically gets pushed down, and then it automatically pushes itself up or off when it's done. You don't want to have it hold the state, because it's the button down action that we're using. So down button color. If we didn't have it go auto up, you'd have to use an up color action the next time it was pressed, because the second press on it would then push it back up. So you gotta watch out for that one. Okay, so we want to have this one. What color do we have here? So we've got 367. So I want to change that button color to 367. So that's going to be right there. So that will then change that one, and we'll set up the down button color. And then we want to change this one to 487. So we're going to go here, and we'll go 487. And the last one is we're going to change that background where you see that white area, and we're just going to make that white again. So we'll flick that up and make that a pure snowy white. All right, cool. So now that covers that. Now we got to link those up. So we're going to take the 367, go to clip 1, and then 487 is going to be clip 2, and then we link up our background. Okay, cool. So now we've got the on. So when I click on this button, it's going to change all those. So let's check that. So boom, now they've changed. Obviously the background didn't, because that was already white. And now let's do the off. The off is a none button. We're going to hide the state, and we're going to set up that auto up. Remember, no duration, because we want it to immediately come up. We never want it to hold that state of being turned on. And we're going to add 1 down button color action. And I'll go ahead and link that to all of these. So all 3 buttons, because we're going to dim those babies down to nothing. So let's go, and we'll make that nice and dark. Let's go a little bit lighter than that, so we can kind of see the background a little bit. Okay, cool. So now if we go to mark mode, boom, now we've dimmed those out. So now we've got 2 switches that we can turn on, right? So that's pretty straightforward. And now what we'll do is we'll just option click and drag those 2. We'll change the name to panel 2, and let's make that to say off and not of, and off. And let's do this. Now we're going to just change these colors a little bit so they look a little bit different. Let's make that a nice red, and let's make our other button a nice green. And then we'll link that. My clip will now be red, and that will be that. Now I know that that is that one. And what color did we make that? 216. So let's go here, and I'm going to set that color to 216. Okay, cool. Now we link those, so we want my clip 3 to be red, and that one to be green, and this background to be white. And then we're going to basically do the same thing. We don't have to change anything on this one except for linking to the different buttons. Right? Okay, cool. So now let's check our work here. We'll turn that one off, turn that one on, turn that one off. Now we've got a completely dim out view. So let's set up one last little button that I find is handy when I'm doing this, and that is an all up and all off, or I should say all off and all on. So we'll just grab a copy of this one, and we don't need any of these actions. Get rid of all those, and we need a down action. So we're going to turn all the panels on with a down, and all we do is link that to panel 1 on and panel 2 on, and we'll do the same thing, create a all panels off button, and put that to panel 1 off and panel 2 off. Cool. And now we should be able to turn that on, that off, all on. So now we've got some handy switches that allow us to do the behaviors. So the next thing we need to do is when a panel is turned on, we need to hook it up so that it turns the last one off, right? So depending on the sequence, what I'm going to do here is I am going to set this up to do a down to the next panel that I want in my sequence, right? So we're going to turn on this one, and we're going to have this button turn on that one with a down. And then these will do the same type of thing, down, and we'll turn on this panel because we're going to jump back and forth. And this one is going to down and turn on that one. But while we do that, we need to turn ourselves off, which I did forget about. So I'll turn this one off when it goes down. And this one needs to turn off panel 2 because we're going to be done with it. We're moving back to panel 1. And this one will need to turn off panel 1. And this one will need to turn off panel 1 as well. So we've got a pretty good looking thing. Remember, holding control will pause that animation so you can track. And you can always do a count to make sure that you know, everything is equal. Generally with these things, they're going to be symmetrical, so it's going to be pretty obvious if you made a mistake. Okay, so let's go ahead and get rid of these. Let's send those to the back and put those behind. Send those to the back and tuck those behind because we really don't ever need to see those. Now, often when I'm creating these, I take and build like a little control area, which is sort of off the main, you know, usage area in the markup. So now we should be able to, let's go ahead and hit markup mode, and let's turn them all off. And now we'll go, so we'll click that, so there's that's lit up. Now we go to 3, that brings us to panel 1, and that's lit up, and we can just keep going in between these little guys like this. So a very fun and clever way of setting up a data entry sequence without writing any code, just simply linking and using none buttons to help you do little switches.